This is Smooth 98.1. We love music and we love life. It is a Thursday morning, 32 minutes past 6 a.m. Ayokunmi right here. And it's time to take a walk into the world of business on Business Express on a Thursday morning. Oh, yes, welcome along to the ride. Join us as always to share your thoughts on what we'll be talking about this morning. 0809 440 981. 0809 440 981. That is the WhatsApp number. Joining me this morning to have this conversation, talk about basically what we're going to be focusing on is the economic aspects of the speech made by President Bola Tinubu on October the 1st, his Independence Day speech. And we'll be taking a look at that. So joining me to break it all down and make some sense of it all is DJO Majekodunmi. He's the CEO at Pact Univeersal. DJO, good morning to you. Great to have you on Business Express.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on.
Absolute pleasure. So you can also join us on YouTube. I need to add that as well. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos is our YouTube channel. And WhatsApp, once again, is 0809 440 981. That is the WhatsApp number. Okay, DJO, very interesting speech made by President Tinubu on Tuesday, October the 1st. A number of things were said, and there have been mixed reactions to that particular address. And of course, Nigeria marked Independence Day, should I say, low key. Of course, the economic crisis is nothing new. And from your point of view and from what you saw that day, how did you feel about the way things were observed? And what does it say about our current national mood?
Well, we are in a very peculiar situation, and I thought that it was right for us to celebrate it on a low key, a muted response. Reason being there's a lot of hardship in the country, and I think leadership needs to identify with the people, and so observing it without exorbitant expenditure, I thought is a good way to go about it, to identify with the happenings across the nation. That's my thoughts about that.
Okay. A lot of people actually saw it that way, but I just wanted to get your own thoughts on it as well. Now, taking a look at the speech that was made, a couple of things jump out. Now, one thing that got a lot of people talking was when he mentioned that $30 billion in foreign direct investments had been attracted to the country. Now, shouldn't we be seeing the impact of this, at least, if nothing, on the exchange rates, which has been ballooning?
Well, truly, if we had that level of inflow, which is almost corresponding to what our reserves were before they got into administration at 33 billion, we should actually be seeing some positiveness. But I think the National Bureau of Statistics and the Minister of Trade and Investment needs to actually verify those figures. It's possible that a large portion of what was said were promises of potential investors of what they were going to invest. Also, is to be interesting to know how the funds are to come into the country, because most times investors don't necessarily bring in the dollars. They could transfer machineries and equipments that have such values into the country. So the money really doesn't really come in, but it comes in as equipment. So it might not be available to the CBN into our own economy. So we need to really look at, how the funds are coming in and have they actually materialized. If they had, then I would expect that there would have been an effect on stabilizing the exchange rate. But that needs to be verified. There are various reports that says only about 300 and something million has actually come in, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. But not to say that it was a false reporting, but it is what was really reported. An overview of potential, those that have come in, and potential things that might come in. But then we need to really break it down to see what are the how is this investment coming in. one thing I'll just throw in here, oftentimes in the corporate world, multinationals come and say they want to invest a certain amount in factories and things like that. And then they come to local banks to actually borrow the money to do it. And then their own expenditure now comes with what I mentioned earlier, equipments and stuff. So oftentimes it could be Nigerian banks that would actually fund some of their needs that they need here. And they just bring in capital equipments and things. So not necessarily that all the dollars will just flow into the system. Yeah.
Okay. Now, before we jump off of that, I'm just curious to know. I mean, we talk about FDIs quite a bit and attracting investors and so on and so forth. But are we even doing enough to create an environment that is appealing enough for these investors to say, hey, that is a great place to do business. Let's go there. Are we even doing enough on that front?
I think there's still much more that we ought to do. I recall in the first year of the administration of Buhari, the then Minister of Trade and Investment, Dr. Oke Enema, came up with the initiative of creating an enabling environment. I think we need to do much more in creating an atmosphere for investors, not just foreign investors, even local investors in Nigeria. They can take a leaf of Lee Kuan Yew, who built the modern day Singapore. One of the things that he did was he went around the world and met with the global CEOs and asked them, what will it take to come to my country? And they gave him what they will require. And he went back to his country and built everything that they needed, and then came back to them and said they should come and see. And so they came, and that's how the economic zones, was developed, and that was now exported to China. That stimulates the Chinese economy, that we call it manufacturing capital of the world today. And then I think is also the leaf that we are also taking in the trade-free zones here. Okay. But there's still much more that needs to be done. Another thing that is also important is investors also need a workforce. And so when Lee Kuan Yew discovered about the new economy, which is knowledge-based economy, he began to set up institutes in combination with Germany to have this institute to train people on the semiconductor industry. So we need to also build our youth to be able to work in these institutions that we want to attract into the country. Otherwise, it will be the foreigners taking up the jobs again. So there's a combination of things that needs to be done educationally to have the right workforce in society, and then everything that investors need is of money coming in and out, and the rule of law. There must be a rule of law that is at play so that they can be redressed. And these are the key things that needs to be put in place. I also believe that efforts needs to be done in ring fencing our economy. What I mean by ring fencing our economy is that our raw materials that we have in this country needs to be processed into finished goods. Okay. We need to add value to them. Yeah. Thanks. That's what I believe. Yeah.
All right. So you mentioned the youth earlier on, which actually is interesting because also in that address by the president, he announced a national youth conference and several youth-centered initiatives, which is very interesting. And I'm just wondering, is there any precedence for this, or is there really any need for us to actually have a conference? What value or benefits can we draw from this initiative that the president mentioned?
Well, one would really need to know the thought process that came about with this. I know that internationally, the UN has youth assemblies where people from around the world come and kind of reenact what happens in the UN General Assembly. They could have taken a leaf from that as a way of bringing various youths together in the country to discuss on national issues. Well, for me, is it the right thing to do at this point in time? I'm not really sure, but knowing fully well that 60% of our population are youth, and it is their future that needs to be, to be worked upon. Some of us are already on our exit. And so I think youth engagement is critical. But I think there could be a much more efficient and effective way of going about it. We have the National Youth Service Corps. I think they could begin the engagements using those already within the Youth Service Corps. Now, it's not every youth that have gone to university and stuff like that. But hey, it's a starting point that the discourse, should start with them. And it can start at that level instead of reinventing things that was going to take away our scarce resources into things that potentially might not give us the dividends in the near term.
Okay. All right. Interesting thoughts there. And finally, I actually need to bring this up. Talking about President Tinubu now, he actually has left Nigeria for a 2-week leave in London. And I mean, he was in London very recently, but anyways, there's two sides to this. Yes, he's entitled to take his leave, but looking at what's going on in the country, the economic stress and all that, I mean, is this a good time to say, hey, I mean, after coming back from certain foreign trips, jetting out again? That's on one hand, and then on the second hand, what does this say about Nigeria as a holiday destination or a tourist destination where our leaders can say, oh, I'm in this particular part of the country and I want to take a holiday. Let me go to this particular place in another side of the country, as opposed to always going out of the country for these sort of things.
I do agree with what you said. As leaders, we need to lead by example, and it would have been better for him to have gone maybe down to Uyo, to the results there. There's a Imbom Golf and Resorts in Uyo. It's a nice place. And I'm sure there are very nice places across the country that he could have gone for a vacation. And note again, it's a working vacation. So, and that would have been more beneficial to the local economy. It will be supporting the local economy by him, vacating here. Now him going to London. Yes, London is a nice place, except he wants to really cool off and he feels the heat here is getting too much because at this time of the year, it's cold. Now, what my thoughts is that is what was presented to us. It's customary in people of that particular age group not to like people to be worried about their health issues. It's possible that he probably is going for a medical checkup, but he's putting it as in terms of a vacation, which is customary with people of that age group, not wanting their children to be anxious. But by and large, there's a possibility that there are people who are in London that want to meet up with him to discuss the current policies and how the effects and the impacts are, and maybe a change of course needs to be done. And they are not prepared or they're not opportune to come to Nigeria. And he wants to use that as an opportunity to also meet up with those who are diasporas and who have interests in Nigeria also. In good faith, we would expect that he's doing it for the best interest of the country, but it would be better if he had vacated somewhere in Nigeria. And one of the things about the benefits of that is it also brings development into those areas. And because there's a country, I think is South Africa, they split where their government offices are. So you have the judiciary in a particular region, legislation in another region, and the presidency in Pretoria or in different regions. And that way they spread government out. And so development happens across the country. And so I think it would be needful that at least let them have vacations more in different parts of the country to bring focus there, to bring development there, and to highlight the tourist potentials that we have. We must be our first advocate. That's my thought.
Well said. We need to be our first advocates. Let me round up the conversation this morning with a message from Ahmed from Ogudu, who says, we all wish the Nigerian economy to improve, but I find it difficult to believe any figure the president puts out in most of the speech. Last time, it was mentioned that our oil production had increased to 1.6 million barrels per day, and we could not feel the impact, but OPEC put out the figures at 1.3 million barrels per day. Where's the impact of the $30 billion FDI? No excellent investor can invest in this current economy where the existing organizations are leaving the country. Alluding to what we talked about, the enabling environment for business and for external investors to actually thrive. Let's see how this plays out, like you said, and we'll keep our fingers crossed, definitely. Thank you so much for joining me this morning, DJO Majekodunmi. It's been a pleasure having you on the show this morning.
Thank you very much. God bless.
All right. Have a great Thursday, and of course, a great rest of the week ahead.
Thank you. God bless.
All right. And thank you for being a part of Business Express this beautiful Thursday morning. Keep it tuned to the Smooth Breakfast right here on Smooth 98.1. It's great music all the way as we get set to jump into the papers on Freshly Pressed at 7:30.